Just want to bring in athletics journalist Alex Seftel, who is in Manchester. But Alex, I believe you are able to see these arrivals as we're watching them as well. Alex, just sum up for us Team GB in Paris 2024. Some been talking about the fact that it was a fewer gold medal haul than in previous years, but in terms of overall medals, it's still pretty good, beating Tokyo by one, the same total as in London back in 2012.
Yes, in terms of overall medals, I think we have to say it's fantastic. Sometimes these golds and silvers just come down to tiny fractions of a second. Sometimes comes down to luck. And sometimes, like in the situation with Josh Kerr for Team GB in the 1500 metres, the athlete sets a British record and is beaten by a great athlete with a great finish and is still very proud of that silver medal. We saw in these pictures Scarlett Mew-Jensen and Yasmin Harper, Britain's first medalists at the Games, and then Emily Campbell, the last medalist as well. So, yeah, wonderful to see these images.
Yeah, for the weightlifting, that was on the very last day of the Games, I think, wasn't it? In terms of sort of standout performances, Alex, if you had to pick one moment of Paris 2024, what would it be?
I think for me, and this might surprise you, but it's an athlete that Megan just mentioned, Georgia Bell, because of her story, because she was a very talented junior, an English schools champion in 2008. She then decided to leave athletics to one side when she finished university, didn't do a track race for 5 years, got back into parkrun during lockdown, saw the success of other athletes like Keely Hodgkinson, who of course won gold in the 800 metres, under Georgia's old coach, and said, do you know what? I've got potential left to fulfil. Made her GB debut this year, and she has an Olympic medal and a British record.
Let's talk about Keely Hodgkinson. You just mentioned her. Your specialism, your special interest is athletics. How's the athletics team done?
Extraordinarily well, because they won 5 medals in Tokyo and 10 at this Olympic Games, and that's the best medal haul in athletics since 1984. Lots of fastest ever times for GB athletes. And it's funny though, isn't it? Because you could look at 5 medals in Tokyo and think, oh dear, that's awful. And then you could look at 10 medals this time around and say, aren't things going incredibly well? So one result can change things, but ultimately 10 medals is exactly what they did at last year's World Championships. So that is consistent, and hopefully that is also inspiring of the next generation too.
My place of birth, London, with 32 medal winners, people who were born there. That's just short of Germany, total of 33. So actually the London Mayor has something to be extremely proud of.
Yeah, certainly does. And I guess you could argue that there are more facilities in London, which kind of helps, and other regions would like a broader spread of that. To answer your question about Keely Hodgkinson, when you win an Olympic silver medal at the age of 19, you think, gosh, there's only one place you can go up from there. So to show the determination and the ability to do that at the next Games this year is truly phenomenal.
Just seeing some of the youngsters there having their photographs taken. And of course, that is a brilliant thing about the Olympics, isn't it? Is that the youngsters see those athletes bringing home those medals and think, wow, one day that could be me.
Yeah, and one example, athlete right here, Victoria Uhuru, she saw her older sister Christine win Olympic gold in 2008. And at that time, she was in her living room in Stratford. And as soon as that gold medal was won, people from around their street were knocking on their door to celebrate. And she was watching that race back to inspire her for this Games. And she herself has come away with a bronze medal after years of kind of trying to follow in her sister's footsteps.
Yeah, that was the 4x400 metre relay, wasn't it? Again, one of those really great events, one of those really great medals.
Absolutely. I mean, to get 5 medals in 5 relays is extremely impressive. And there was a lot of pressure on those teams, of course, because you have to get that baton round. A lot of funding goes in towards those relay teams. And as we know, sometimes it's ended in disaster. Let's be clear of that, even though there have been some fabulous winning moments. But it's a team event in what is often an isolated, lonely sport.
Absolutely.
And you have to mention as well, someone like Sam Reardon, who, when the game started, he was watching it from home, then a late injury replacement, and he comes away with 2 medals somewhat unexpectedly.
If you're having a look at those pictures there, perhaps if there's anyone you want to pick out and flag, oh, there's Tom Daley. Tom Daley really has been such an ambassador for the Olympics for so many years now. Again, talking about an inspiration to younger generations, that is absolutely him, isn't it?
Yes, and it's incredible because there's an archive clip on the BBC that's been shared where he says, I could still be competing in an Olympics in 2024, which is just hilarious to see that replayed. But yeah, he's been around such a long time and he's needed incredible dedication during that period. I think people probably don't see a lot of what it's like behind the scenes for these athletes and the sacrifices they have to make and maybe the time that they don't spend socialising. But Tom Daley, he's also very much enjoyed watching on his teammates and was seen knitting in the stands while watching on everyone else that was part of Team GB.
Alex, do stay with us. I'm just going to cross back to my colleague, Megan. Alex, you're watching these pictures, these medal winners arriving back. Your thoughts as you see them?
Yes, well, I've just seen the Nielsen twins, Lavia and Lena, who are part of the same relay team that won a medal in the 4x400 metres at these games. And they were kit carriers at London 2012. And seeing the likes of Jessica Ennis-Hill there just inspired them. So, yeah, incredible to think how you can go from carrying a basket with someone's kit to actually competing yourself and just living out that true legacy, I guess you'd have to say, as Charlie Dobson there just coming through with the ginger hair. And he's someone who has also got himself on that relay podium. So a number of athletes, part of the athletics squad, and they have done fantastically well. As I was saying, 10 medals here. And you have to think as well for some of those who are part of sports that don't normally get this kind of reception or attention at their world or European championships. Athletics does get it to a certain extent, but what about something like weightlifting or cycling, as we saw with Tom Pidcock? Really getting attention on his name, and people will start to talk about BBC Sports Personality of the Year to come in December, and who might sort of be in the running for that. But a real opportunity for those names to be up in lights, the likes of Nathan Hales as well, who also won gold in the shooting.
I mean, that is the joy of the Olympics, isn't it? Is that within a 2-week period, we all become experts in trap shooting or mountain biking or, sports that we never really pay much attention to, apart from in the 4 years in between the Olympics. And that is what makes it so special.
Yes, I thought it was hilarious that everyone was getting into the intricacies of how point scoring works in the heptathlon and the ebbs and flows of the event, having not taken interest in it before. But yeah, it just goes to show just how the nation gets behind athletes. And I was at the Stade de France last week, and the amount of British flags made it seem like it was almost a home games. And that's what many athletes like Dina Asher-Smith had spoken about in the build-up. That's exactly what they were hoping for. And you have to think that the next games are in LA, the one after that in Brisbane. So it's going to be a little bit more expensive, shall we say, to travel to those places for many British fans.
Alex, in your experience, I mean, obviously we're watching all the athletes come back now. They've just had a really intense period leading up to the Olympics. What do they do now? How long will they have to rest? When do they have to start thinking about the next Olympic cycle?
It really depends on the athlete, because some will have the Diamond League competition, which is the premier world circuit, shall we say, of one-day meetings. And some will return to that very, very quickly, so won't have much time off at all, whereas others will decide to end their season on a high here, and depending on the event that they do, won't start thinking on building back up for quite a few months until next year's indoor championships, for example, and then a World Championships next year, all building towards that next Olympic Games, as you say. So it really depends on the athlete, and it might be that given their performance here and how it's worked out, they might decide this is a time to end a season on a high, or I'm a bit disappointed, I want more from this year, or even somewhere between. I'm doing so well that I want to maximise this time that I am performing so good.
Alex, for the moment, thank you for your insight there.